This podcast is brought to you by On Track Studio. If you're a service-based business owner, coach, or specialist, be that creative or some sort of consultant, then this video is going to give you a marketing strategy that actually works. Right now, there's every chance that you've given it a go. You've probably got a presence on some of your social media platforms, but you likely lack a bit of faith in social media in terms of it being a driver for your business. And therefore, you don't have the ability to be consistent on these platforms because you're not seeing that return on investment. What this looks like is maybe inconsistent leads and sales, or if you are getting leads and sales, there's not a direct link necessarily to what you're putting out online. Or maybe you are a 6 to 7 figure business owner who has actually built their business really successfully purely from word of mouth, but now you want to scale it further. Whichever camp you sit in, if you want to dominate your industry, this strategy is what works for you. By the end of this video, you're going to be able to self-diagnose what parts of your marketing system are actually working and what parts aren't, and be able to walk away with a very clear idea of what your next step should be. Everything I mentioned in this video is actually taken from chapter 1 of my book, Dominate Your Industry, which I wrote to actually give service-based business owners like you a top to bottom of funnel marketing system that uses their voice to make more impact and get more sales. So if you connect with what I say in this video, definitely consider checking it out. It's in the description below. So before I can give you a strategy for service-based businesses like you to get more leads and sales, I need to point out the misplaced focus in modern day marketing. When it comes to marketing right now, people are focusing on replication over creation. And this is purely because they actually think this is a more effective use of their time. This is not the case. What this might look like is simply having a look at what your competitors are doing, and then if it's working for them, you'll implement it in your own business. Seemingly harmless, right? You're thinking if it works for them, it will likely work for me because we're in the same industry, and that is the basis of your strategy. The problem with this is A, it might not be working for them. Social media, as we know, can be very misleading. And unless you've seen the books in that business and how the sales are actually going and what they're actually spending, then I would never assume that it is working for them. So that's just the first thing. The second thing is, if it is working for them, it's because they've actually infused their unique value proposition within the execution of that strategy. So I'll start by saying if you're doing this, it's actually not your fault. It makes sense. A lot of business owners are doing this because it's what the content online usually says. It says things like go into your saved folder on Instagram and create content similar to what you've seen. And even with ChatGPT, often people these days are actually going and copy and pasting someone else's marketing collateral and saying, can you put this in words that make sense for my own business? So there's very normalized culture around this strategy. Obviously, maybe you've tried this before and it hasn't worked. If you haven't tried it before, please don't bother, because you're better off listening to one of the marketing masters, Seth Godin. I've actually got one of his books literally on my shelf behind me. He has written many, many books like Purple Cow and This Is Marketing, and he actually talks about marketing principles that truly work. Timeless marketing principles. It's not about the social media game. It's actually been principles that have worked since before social media was even a thing and continue to work now. So he said it best when he said the riskiest thing you can do in your marketing is to play it safe. Now, this is really talking about the best strategy being the use of creativity. So tapping into your own creativity is truly what works in marketing, but people aren't used to actually accessing that in themselves. So they instead do what they think they should do and replicate over create. The misconception here is that creating takes more work than replicating, but this is actually not the case. Replicating content or replicating any sort of strategy within your own business is what leads to imposter syndrome and content creation fatigue. So you're only going to get fatigued over something that doesn't energize you. And when you're not tapping into your own creativity to bring ideas forward in your own marketing or collaborating with people who do, then that's what's going to burn you out. For people who are in the marketing space and doing really well, the creation part is actually what energizes them. So they don't actually experience content creation fatigue. And if I can teach you how to do that for yourself, then you won't either. And what's more is it doesn't work. To go back to the original point, replicating other people's marketing strategies doesn't work. So instead of replicating, you should be following proven, timeless frameworks that work within marketing and creating from that place. When it comes to a marketing strategy for service-based businesses, coaches, and specialists, there's actually a massive opportunity. A lot of us service-based businesses bond over the fact that product-based businesses have it so easy. It is so easy for them to market themselves, but there's a very unique opportunity that presents itself as a service-based business, and that is that not many are doing it well. Most service-based businesses focus too heavily on things that don't actually work. So they don't actually land with their audience. This might look like speaking too heavily about the benefits and features of their service as opposed to pointing the conversation to their audience and really understanding their ideal clients' needs, desires, and their values. Okay, so now for my proven system to successfully market your service-based business. So marketing truly is about differentiation. And you might be thinking, okay, Sophie, but how do I differentiate myself when the online world is so saturated? The good news is it's actually quite simple. Instead of creating content around your service, all you have to do is simply shift your focus to the transformation that your service provides your clients. What you need to understand is when people invest in services like coaching, consulting, or some sort of specialized professional service or creative service, they aren't buying your time or expertise. They are purchasing the outcome and the change that comes along with working with you. Let's use my all-time favorite brand, Nike, as an example. They're not selling shoes. It wasn't until they shifted their focus to transforming their customers into athletes that their marketing became powerful. So think about what transformation your service elicits for your customer. So once you've identified the transformation that your business offers, how do you best communicate that you are the best choice for your ideal client to elicit that change or that transformation for them? For product-based businesses, this is somewhat easier. Like Nike, they just have their shoe at the forefront of their content, and it's really that simple. And this comes across as super tasteful and subtle, and this is really what you need to be doing with your service. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. Do yourself a favor and get out a pen and paper. I'll allow you to type it if you need, and just write down the steps that you take to actually facilitate the change in your clients. So this is all back-end stuff, everything from onboarding them all the way to the actual service providing, and then any follow-up appointments you might have, your whole unique process that gets your client to their transformation. This is your unique method. Now, I want you to give this unique method a name, because giving it a name will enable you to actually bring it up and reference it regularly within your content, just like Nike does with their shoes. I'm going to give you an example from a service-based business so you can really understand what I mean. Say you're a naturopath who specializes in fertility. The transformation that your service provides is taking a woman from out of whack hormones maybe, or struggling to conceive, to pregnant. So you would follow this process and you would write down all the steps that you take. This might look like an initial consultation, maybe doing a blood test, and then some sort of hormonal assessment, prescribing supplements and herbs. Maybe you have 3 follow-up consultations and check-ins. Then maybe you do some supplement alterations, and then you give personalized protocols for this person to take for 3 to 6 months. And then you have another appointment, and then ta-da, the transformation has happened. Mama has a beautiful, healthy pregnancy. Maybe you name this process something like the natural fertility method. Now you have the ability to position yourself as the best solution for someone who has this problem and outperform all of your competition. Now, where a lot of service-based businesses who have a pretty good idea about how to market themselves often go wrong is they make all this incredibly valuable content about their industry and about ways that they could potentially help you, but they don't position themselves as the best investment for their ideal clients who may be watching this content. This would be like Nike creating heaps of valuable content about the benefits of running and how to run better, but never, ever, ever mentioning their shoe. Wouldn't make sense, right? So I'm going to use the example of the naturopath that I mentioned before to really showcase what this mistake can look like. So before I set out this process, the same naturopath might have thought a valuable piece of content would be something like 3 simple ways to increase fertility in women. The naturopath would film themselves giving tips and hope that that audience would ultimately convert into clients. But if that naturopath were to follow my method, the same content would be created, but he or she would say things like this. My natural fertility method has supported hundreds of women to have a healthy pregnancy. And these are the 3 simple ways that you can improve your fertility. By simply giving it a name and referencing it regularly within your content, you are connecting the dots for your audience that, yes, you're an expert in this space. And if they connect with your content and are really struggling with this problem, you have the how. You unlock the transformation for them because you've mentioned it that many times. Just like Nike's shoes, your natural fertility method is the way that they can achieve fertility and a healthy pregnancy. Okay, so now it's over to you to create your marketing strategy for your service-based business following these steps. First thing you need to do is define your transformation. What does your service actually do for its clients? And don't play it small. Nike just sold shoes until it decided to transform its customers into athletes. Next, you want to write out the steps that it takes for you to facilitate this transformation in your clients. Keeping in mind, yes, your steps will have nuances because you're personalizing your service for each client, but you just want to zoom it out slightly and think about what are the steps that you take for every single client. Instead of saying, I prescribe XYZ, you would say, I perform an assessment and decide what prescription to make on this client, for example. As you know, this process becomes your proprietary method. So it's time to give it a name. Important note about the name, it is best to label it something that speaks to the transformation or the outcome for your clients, because that's what's actually going to connect with them deeper on your content, because they're the ones that are problem aware. They know what they want. They know what they're after, whereas they're not going to connect with industry jargon. You need to really make it simple, really make it easy for them to be able to understand what it is that you do for them. I'll give you an example of when I did this for my own business back when I was offering podcast coaching. Keeping in mind my unique value proposition was leveraging podcasting for lead generation for business owners. And the name that I gave it was the Listener to Sales Framework. So I was able to reference that regularly in my content, and they were easily able to understand that what I do is I allow them to get sales from their content. I would absolutely love to hear what you're going to call your unique framework or method or system. Go ahead and drop it in the comments below. Until next time, bye.